Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is a Christmas television special produced in stop-motion animation by Rankin-Bass Productions and currently distributed by DreamWorks Classics. It first aired Sunday, December 6, 1964, on the NBC television network in the United States, and was sponsored by General Electric under the umbrella title of the General Electric Fantasy Hour. The special was based on the Johnny Marks song Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, which was itself based on the 1939 poem Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer written by Mark's brother-in-law, Robert L. May. Since 1972, the special has aired on CBS, with the network unveiling a high-definition, digitally remastered version of the program in 2005. As with A Charlie Brown Christmas and How the Grinch Stole Christmas, Rudolph no longer airs just once annually, but several times during the Christmas and holiday season on CBS. Unlike other specials that also air on several cable channels, Rudolph only airs on CBS. It has been telecast every year since 1964, making it the longest-running Christmas TV special in history. 2014 marked the 50th anniversary of the television special, and a series of postage stamps featuring Rudolph was issued by the United States Postal Service on November 6, 2014. Plot: Sam the Snowman is introduced at the start of the special. He welcomes the viewers to Christmastown and begins to regale the viewers with a tale of a young reindeer and his glowing red nose. The wife of Dunner the reindeer has just delivered a male fawn. They decide his legal name will be Rudolph, and they are surprised that he possesses a glowing red nose. Santa Claus arrives to meet the new fawn and is surprised by his glowing nose as well. He makes it known that Rudolph will not pull his sleigh if this trait continues into adulthood. Dunner attempts to ameliorate the situation by placing a dirt cover on Rudolph's nose, to make it appear normal. A year later, Rudolph's parents take him out to the reindeer games where Rudolph, along with all of the other young bucks, will be trained to fly and pull Santa's sleigh when they get older. There, Rudolph meets a friendly reindeer named Fireball, and they quickly become friends. The pair then sees a group of does, including one named Clarice, who seems to be attracted to Rudolph. Fireball encourages Rudolph to speak with her. She thinks he's cute, which causes Rudolph to perform a dazzling leap into the air and fly. However, when Rudolph and Fireball engage in celebratory play, the cover pops off Rudolph's nose and unveils his nonconformity, scaring Fireball and ending their friendship. All of the other yearlings then make fun at Rudolph's nose, and he is not allowed to join in any more reindeer games. Clarice, the only reindeer not the least bit bothered by Rudolph's secret, catches up with the sulking Rudolph to try to comfort him. However, Clarice's father forbids her to hang around with Rudolph. Meanwhile, an elf named Hermie dreams of becoming a dentist rather than making toys. The head elf is outraged at Hermie's persistent obsession with dentistry, which is interfering with his work as an elf. Eventually Hermie and Rudolph meet and, noting that they are both misfits in their respective societies, decide to team up and run away together. Along the way, they meet a cheerful and boisterous prospector named Yukon Cornelius, who dreams of discovering silver and gold, before the trio bumps into the abominable snow monster who is attracted to Rudolph's nose. Escaping on an iceberg, they arrive on the island of Misfit Toys, where unwanted toys live with a winged lion named King Moonracer, until he can find homes for them. The king agrees to let them stay for one night, in exchange for a promise from Rudolph that as soon as he, Yukon, and Hermie return, they will ask Santa to deliver the misfit toys to children who need them. However, Rudolph decides to leave the island alone, knowing that his nose will endanger his friends. Rudolph grows older and drifts from place to place, making and losing friends as he is continually rejected for his glowing nose. Eventually deciding to go home, he returns to his cave 2 days before Christmas to find that his peers continue to mock him, and his parents, along with Clarice, had left to search for him months ago. Rudolph then sets out to find his family and discovers that they have been captured by the Bumble, who plans to eat them. After a brief fight, Rudolph is knocked unconscious. Fortunately, Hermie and Yukon arrive, and hatch a rescue plan. Luring the monster out of the cave, the pair knock the Bumble unconscious, and Hermie extracts his teeth. Rudolph awakens, but he and his family are blocked from their escape by the also awakened beast who blocks the entrance to the cave. Yukon chases the now toothless Bumble to a cliff, driving them both off the edge. Mourning Yukon's apparent death, Rudolph, the Red-Nosed, Clarice, and Hermie nonetheless return home, where everyone apologizes for the way they acted while the travelers relate their adventure. Santa promises Rudolph that he'll find homes for all the misfit toys. The elf foreman agrees to let Hermie open his own dentist's office a week after Christmas. Even Dunner apologizes to Rudolph for being critical about his nose. During the celebration, Yukon returns with a tamed Bumble, now a kinder and gentler monster, and thus reveals he survived because Bumbles bounce. However, a huge blizzard blows in, which threatens to cancel Santa's flight. While announcing the news to the elves and reindeer, Santa notices Rudolph's gleaming nose and decides that its light could cut through the storm. With Rudolph leading the sleigh team, Santa and his reindeer fly off to the island where the misfit toys, grieving about being left out and unloved, are cheered up when Santa and Rudolph arrive to pick them up. The special ends with Santa wishing the viewers a Merry Christmas as he and Rudolph fly off into the night. Cast of characters: Billy May Richards as Rudolph, Stan Francis as Santa Claus, Paul Kligman as Dunner, Rudolph's father. Coach Comet, coach of the reindeer games. And Clarice's unnamed father. Burl Ives as Sam the Snowman, who narrates the story and contributes several tunes throughout the program. Among the more well-known songs from the special is Johnny Marks' A Holly Jolly Christmas, which became a Christmas standard in its own right. Paul Soles as Hermie. A shy, meek elf who dreams of becoming a dentist instead of making toys. Janice Orenstein as Clarice. Larry D. Mann as Yukon Cornelius, a boisterous prospector whose goal is to find silver and gold to get rich quick. A running gag throughout the special involves him throwing his pickaxe in the air, pulling it out of the ice, sniffing it, looking it to see if he struck rich, and stating, "Nothing." In the end, he becomes the proud owner of a new peppermint mine near Santa's workshop. The peppermint mine scene was cut out in the special throughout the years since its premiere to make way for Santa and Rudolph returning to the island of misfit toys to bring the toys to their homes. Peg Dixon as Mrs. Claus. Santa's devoted wife, concerned with his moodiness and lack of appetite. Corinne Connie as Mrs. Dunner, Rudolph's mother and Dunner's wife. Carl Barnes as Boss Elf, a portly and ill-tempered foreman and song leader of Santa's workshop. He wears a green hat with a red feather in it, a green coat with yellow tights and a goatee styled to resemble popular song leader Mitch Miller, and uses Lawrence Welk's famous introduction, and a 1A, and a 2A, and a 3A. Before conducting the elves in the song We Are Santa's Elves for Santa. Alfie Skop as Fireball, an acquaintance of Rudolph's from the reindeer games. Skop also voices the other young bucks. The abominable snow monster of the north, Tall Elf, is a minor character who appears in the We Are Santa's Elves and Holly Jolly Christmas scenes. Tall, thin and bespectacled, this character was an integral part of the stop-motion commercial and subsequent print ads produced for General Electric for the inaugural broadcast. In Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and the Island of Misfit Toys, he is renamed Hank. Island of Misfit Toys The Island of Misfit Toys, another addition to the original story, is an island sanctuary where defective and unwanted toys are sent. It is during the initial scene on the island that Johnny Marks' standard, The Most Wonderful Day of the Year, is performed by the inhabitants. Toy versions of nearly every character from this show were produced in the 1990s. Among its inhabitants are, Stan Francis as King Moonracer, a winged lion who rules the entire island of misfit toys. His appearance is similar to the mystical being, the Griffin, a creature who is part lion and part bird. Alfie Skop as Charlie in the Box, a misnamed, but otherwise seemingly normal Jack in the Box who is the island's sentry. Carl Barnes as Spotted Elephant, is a polka-dotted elephant who also works as King Moonracer's footman in his castle. Corinne Conley as Dolly, a seemingly normal girl rag doll with red hair and a red gingham dress. Her misfit problem is never explained on the special. Many decades later, on NPR's Wait Don't Tell Me! News quiz show, Rudolph's producer, Arthur Rankin Jr., noted that Dolly's problem was psychological, caused by being abandoned by her owner and suffering depression from feeling uncared for. Carl Barnes as the other toys. This includes a bird that swims, a cowboy who rides an ostrich, a train with square wheels on its caboose, 2 teddy bears, a boat that can't stay afloat, a set of clown nesting dolls with a wind-up mouse as the last one, a water pistol that shoots jelly, a plane that can't fly, and a scooter with 2 wheels in front and 1 in back. Production. The TV special, with the teleplay by Romeo Muller, introduced several new characters inspired by the song's lyrics. Muller told an interviewer shortly before his death that he would have preferred to base the teleplay on May's original book, but could not find a copy. Other than Belle Ives, all characters were portrayed by Canadian actors recorded at RCA Studios in Toronto under the supervision of Bernard Cowan. Since those involved with the production had no idea of the value of the figures used in the production, they were not preserved. Santa and Rudolph were given to a secretary, who gave them to family members. Kevin Criss bought Santa and Rudolph in 2005 and, because they were in such bad shape, had them restored by Screen Novelties International. The figures have been shown at conventions since then. Aftermath. In 2006, the puppets of Rudolph and Santa used in the filming of this famous television special were appraised on PBS Television's Antiques Roadshow. The puppets had been damaged through years of rough handling by children and storage in an attic. In 2007, both the puppets were restored to original condition by Screen Novelties, a Los Angeles-based collective of film directors specializing in stop-motion animation with puppet fabricator Robin Walsh leading the project. Production credits. Directed by Larry Romer, produced by Arthur Rankin, Jr. Co-producer, Jules Bass, written by Romeo Muller, adapted from the story by Robert L. May, adapted from the song by Johnny Marks, music and lyrics by Johnny Marks. Different versions. Original 1964 NBC broadcast edit. This version has the NBC Living Color peacock at the introduction. It includes the original end credits, where an elf drops presents which list all the technical credits. It also includes commercials which were exclusively for GE Small appliances with some of the same animated elves from the main program introducing each of the products, and closing NBC network bumpers, including promos for the following week's episodes of GE College Bowl and Meet the Press, which were presumably preempted that Sunday for the inaugural 5:30 p.m. telecast. The College Bowl quiz show was also sponsored by GE. The original does not include Santa traveling to the island of misfit toys, but does include a scene near the end of the special in which Yukon Cornelius discovers a peppermint mine near Santa's workshop. He can be seen throughout the special tossing his pickaxe into the air, sniffing, then licking the end that contacts the snow or ice. Discarded in 1965 to make room for Santa traveling to the island of misfit toys, the audience was left to assume that Cornelius was attempting to find either silver or gold by taste alone. 1965 Euro 1997 telecasts. The 1965 broadcast also included a new duet between Rudolph and Hermie called Fame and Fortune, which replaced a scene in which the same characters sang We're a Couple of Misfits. Viewers of the 1964 special complained that Santa was not shown fulfilling his promise to the misfit toys. In reaction, a new scene for subsequent rebroadcasts was produced with Santa making his first stop at the island to pick up the toys. This is the ending that has been shown on all telecasts and video releases ever since. Until sometime in the 1970s the special aired without additional cuts, but eventually more commercial time was required by the network. In 1978, several sequences were deleted to make room for more advertising. The instrumental bridge from We Are Santa's Elves featuring the Elf Orchestra, Rudolph and Hermie's duet reprise of We're a Couple of Misfits, additional dialogue by Belle Ives, and the peppermint mine scene resolving the fate of Yukon Cornelius. The special's 1993 restoration saw Misfits returned to its original film context, and the 2004 DVD release showcases Fame and Fortune as a separate musical number. 1998 Euro 2007 CBS telecasts. Most of the 1965 deletions were restored in 1998, and Fame and Fortune was replaced with the original We're a Couple of Misfits reprise. The Peppermint Mine scene was not restored. It has not aired on CBS since the mid-70s. Starting in 2005, CBS airs the video of the Fame and Fortune scene with the soundtrack replaced by an edited version of We're a Couple of Misfits. The special has been edited to make more time for commercial advertising by shortening some musical numbers. 2008 present CBS telecasts equals, Fame and Fortune has once again been replaced with We're a Couple of Misfits. Additional cuts have been made for more commercial time. Home media. When Rudolph was first issued on VHS and Laserdisc by Family Home Entertainment and Broadway Video from 1989 to 1997 under the Christmas Classic Series label, the 1965 rebroadcast print described above was used. All current video prints of Rudolph by Classic Media are a compendium of the two previous telecast versions of the special. All the footage in the current versions follow the original NBC airing up until the Peppermint Mine scene, followed by the final act of the 1965 edit. In 1998, the special was released by Sony Wonder on VHS. In 2000, it was released on DVD, and on Blu-ray disc in 2010. This edit has been made available in original color form by former rights holders Classic Media American Samoa previously mentioned. This is also the version currently airing on CBS, albeit in edited form to accommodate more commercial time. In November 2014, Classic Media released a 50th anniversary edition of the special on Blu-ray. Walmart released an exclusive 50th anniversary Blu-ray edition with a storybook. Soundtrack. The songs and incidental music were all written by Johnny Marks, with Maury Laws supervising. In addition to the songs previously mentioned, the score also includes the film's love theme There's Always Tomorrow, sung by Clarice after Rudolph is kicked out of the reindeer games. Mark's holiday standard Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree appears as instrumental background music when Rudolph first arrives at the reindeer games. Also included in the soundtrack is an instrumental version of Mark's setting of the Christmas hymn I Heard the Bells on Christmas Day. In 1964, an LP record of the soundtrack was released on Decca Records. It contained all the original songs performed as they are in the special, with the exception of Bell Ives material, which has been re-recorded. MCA Special Products released the soundtrack on CD in June 1995. It is an exact duplication of the original LP released in 1964. Tracks 1 to 9 are the original soundtrack selections while tracks 10 to 19 are the same songs performed by the Decca Concert Orchestra. The song Fame and Fortune is not contained on either release. On November 30, 2004 the soundtrack was certified gold by the Recording Industry Association of America for selling over 500,000 copies. Ives re-recorded Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and A Holly Jolly Christmas, with different arrangements, for his own album Have a Holly Jolly Christmas in 1965. Merchandise, books and other items related to the show have in some cases misspelled Hermie as Herbie. Rich Goldschmidt, who wrote Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, The Making of the Rankin Bass Holiday Classic, says the scripts by Romeo Mullis show the spelling to be Hermie. A Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer video game was released on November 9, 2010. The adaptation was published by Red Wagon Games for the Wii and Nintendo DS systems, and was developed by High Voltage Software and Glyphic Entertainment, respectively. The Wii version was received poorly, and garnered extremely negative reviews from sites such as IGN giving it a 1.5/10. Sequels, the Rankin Bass Special, which currently airs on CBS, inspired numerous television sequels made by the same studio, Rudolph's Shiny New Year, a special that first aired on ABC and is still aired annually on ABC Family. Rudolph and Frosty's Christmas in July, a feature-length special that paired Rudolph with the song-inspired character Frosty the Snowman. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and the Island of Misfit Toys, a direct-to-DVD computer-animated film that is considered an unofficial sequel to the 1964 film. Parodies of, and homages to, Rudolph, the television special's familiarity to American audiences through its annual rebroadcasts, along with its primitive stop-motion animation that is easy to recreate with modern technology and the special's ambiguous copyright status, has lent itself to numerous parodies and homages over the years. Films by Corky Quackenbush. Animator Corky Quackenbush has produced parodies of Rudolph for several American television shows. In its December 16, 1995 episode, the Fox Network's comedy series MAD-TV aired Raging Rudolph, which also parodied Martin Scorsese's films. In it, Sam the Snowman narrates in a Joe Pesci-like voice how Rudolph and Hermie got violent mafia-style revenge on their tormentors. This was followed by two sequels, The Rhinefeather, spoofing the Godfather trilogy, and A Pack of Gifts Now, spoofing Apocalypse Now. A 2001 episode of That 70s Show, titled An Eric Foreman Christmas, featured a subplot where Kelso was taunted by his friends for still watching kiddie shows like Rudolph even though he was in high school. A dream sequence produced and directed by Quackenbush, Kelso himself appears in stop-motion form with Rudolph and Santa, who encourage him to continue watching their show. In December 2005, The George Lopez Show featured an animated segment in which Lopez sees a stop-motion version of himself on television in a Rudolph-style special mirroring the theme of the holiday episode. Other parodies of Rudolph. In the stop-motion animated film, The Nightmare Before Christmas, Jack looks through a book version of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer to find a logical answer to explain Christmas to the other citizens of Halloween Town. Later, Zero, the ghost dog, has a magnificently glowing pumpkin nose, which is bright enough to break through the fog that Sally has conjured up. Jack lets Zero go to the head of his skeleton reindeer team and light the way for him. Chell White, of Bent Image Lab, directed two parodies that played on Saturday Night Live, on Robert Smiggle's TV Funhouse. In a 2001 TV Funhouse episode, Sam the Snowman refuses to narrate the story because of the September 11, 2001 attacks. He then takes two children to Ground Zero at New York City, but Santa Claus convinces him to narrate the story, because people need comforting stories like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Sam decided to narrate the tale, but was immediately interrupted by a special news report. In 2004, TV Funhouse referenced the Red State-Blue State divide. In the segment, Santa hangs out with liberal celebrities Natalie Merchant, Margaret Cho, Al Franken, and Moby while skipping over the red states. Rudolph's red nose turns blue. In 2004, for Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer's 40th anniversary, CBS produced stop-motion promos for their programming lineup, done in the style of Rankin-Bass animation. Appearing as elves in the CBS promos were puppet versions of CBS stars Jeff Probst from Survivor, Ray Romano and Doris Roberts from Everybody Loves Raymond, William Peterson and Marg Helgenberger from CSI, Charlie Sheen from 2.5 Men, Phil Simms and Greg Gumbel from the NFL on CBS, and late-night talk show host David Letterman. A new stop-motion animation featuring Rudolph and Santa meeting even more CBS network stars was also aired in 2005. Mystery Science Theater 3000 made numerous references to the special in their movie Hecklings, such as Rudolph's line "I'm cute. I'm cute. She said I'm cute." In episode 321, which screened Santa Claus Conquers the Martians, the MST3K cast had their own ideas for potential residents on the island of misfit toys, including toaster dolls, Patrick Swayze's Row House board game, the EZ Bake Foundry, and Mr. Mashed Potato Head. Uses in advertising. In 1964, Rankin and Bass produced several commercials for the General Electric-sponsored broadcast. In November 2007, the Aflac Insurance Company released a commercial that featured Rudolph, who has a cold but does not want to miss work. All his friends say he will be unable to pay for his expenses. Santa then tells them about Aflac. Charlie wonders what will happen if Rudolph is not better by Christmas, but Rudolph thinks the Aflac duck can do the work. Rudolph gets better in a week, but Blitzen is sick, so the Aflac duck fills in for him. In 2009, Verizon began showing a commercial of the Misfit toys with an AT&T phone. The characters wonder why it is there with all of its features but soon discover why, when the phone shows a map of where it has 3G coverage. The toy airplane replies, "You're gonna fit right in here," and falls on the ground laughing. Starting in 2011, there have been several Bing.com commercials, filmed to look like the same stop-motion style as the special, which feature several characters including Rudolph, Yukon Cornelius, Hermie, the Bumble, and the Misfit Toys. A 2012 commercial for Windows Phone features Bumble the Abominable Snowman, speed dating and getting advice from friends through live tiles. A follow-up features Bumble at Santa's North Pole pool party, and Santa using live tiles on his new Windows Phone to help him give his elves the holiday season toy production directives. A 2013 commercial for Nissan shows a woman in a dealership briefly entering a fantasy, wherein Santa's elves, including Boss Elf and Hermie, have expanded their manufacturing line to include Nissan cars. Furthermore, the Bumble makes an appearance test driving one to his obvious approval. CBS celebrated the special's 50th anniversary in 2014 with Rudolph and Sam the Snowman celebrating with cast members from The Big Bang Theory and NCIS while passing by their studio lots. In 2014, the United States Postal Service used 4 characters for the year's contemporary Christmas stamp issue. In 2015, the Rudolph characters began appearing in commercials for AT&T with a stop-motion version of Spokes character Lily Adams. Copyright issues. The copyright of the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer special lies in a gray area of federal copyright law. When the recording was originally published, the date of copyright was listed as 11/64, omitting an M that should have been present. This mistake was not corrected with subsequent edits. The original story and soundtrack remain separately copyrighted, and U.S. copyright law does allow for some leeway for non-substantial errors. Thus, the special is generally not considered to be in the public domain and permission is still required to redistribute the special. See also, List of animated feature films, List of Christmas television specials, List of stop-motion films, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. References. External links, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer at the Internet Movie Database, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer at the Big Cartoon Database. Character Arts official licensee site for Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer licensing.